This brings us to business as a force for good. You're a very vocal advocate for business as a force for good. Can you tell us a bit more about what that means to you and how you help do that at Roche?
Well, I would separate the two questions, if I may. The first part, how can business help? I mean, I think we have to sort of open our eyes and realize that the whole prosperity created for humanity is created by the entrepreneurial phenomenon. You know, you take something, you transform it, you sell it, and you make a margin, and that margin helps to finance all sorts of things. So the good old way used to be you make money first, and then you distribute the money to society through taxes and dividends and salaries, and the society then goes about to repair all the damages that have been created in the value creation business. Obviously, it's absurd. We need to make sure that companies contribute to prosperity, to the wealth of all of us, in a way which does not damage either the social or the natural environment. And so business as a force for good is to try to make people realize that companies can be part of the solution and not only part of the problem, which they have been until now. And now that's something I can obviously share with all NGOs I happen to be involved with. NGOs are not necessarily the right ones, and business are not necessarily the bad ones. You know, there is a divide, yes, there's a place where you make money and a place where you spend the money. But if you really want to introduce sustainability, if you really want to talk in the long term, everybody has to be sustainable. An old friend of mine used to say, you cannot be green if you are in the red. It's absolutely impossible to imagine a sustainable project if that particular project does not throw some positive cash flow at some stage. Now, I'm not saying that the cash flow is the most important one, certainly not. But without it, there is no long-term thinking. And I think that's an important trade-off that one has to make. If I come back to this notion of before of specialization towards diversity, if the whole emphasis of business is to produce short-term value maximization, we will find ourselves in a situation where we sell the future to guarantee the present. And that increases the fragility of the system at a time when there are more and more challenges being thrown at it. So resilience is what matters, and more businesses are starting to realize that business as a force for good is not just a slogan, but it is in fact a recipe for survival. If you overexploit natural resources, you are going to, when I say natural resources, so natural resources, but also social ones, and I think we've seen a couple of good examples in the recent past, you're going to hit a wall, especially in the one planet system. So business as a force for good is let entrepreneurial thinking help humanity to come out of this blind alley in which we are at the moment.
Can you say a few words about how that's working in the Roche context?
Pharmaceutical businesses have an incredibly important role to play, and that again has been sort of underlined by the COVID crisis. The biggest problem facing pharmaceutical companies is not the fact that they have to be profitable, but it's the fact that they have to make whatever solution they come up with accessible to the biggest number. So we need to make sure that we give to patients across the planet access to medicine. Our opportunity, rather, is not to just try to keep people out of disease. It's also trying to make sure that people who do not have a fair chance and a fair access to health system also have a way of looking at this. So for Roche, we are not just selling drugs. We are not just a pill manufacturer. We are a partner to health system to try to make sure that the system itself satisfies more and more patients or treats more and more patients and does that in a way that is fair and equitable. So we want to be able to run the business by making best use of the human, the social, and the environmental capital as well. Obviously, as I said before, if there is no profit, then there is no business either. So there has to be a profit, and some people, in particular in this crisis moment, find that difficult to accept. But whatever solution we can provide, we can only provide because we are sufficiently profitable to reinvest into research. So the journey of Roche has started 12 years ago when we started at board level a committee. That committee was a sustainability and governance committee, which I chair. And in that committee, we've put in place a certain element of transparency in order to make sure that we can have build some trust with our patients. So the key words, I think, are transparency and predictability. We need to be able to make sure that people outside of our committee and outside of the company realize that what we are trying to do is to satisfy the needs of the patient. And we do that in as much a transparent position as possible. So we started reporting on all the dimensions we could think of, so measuring impact and not just financial returns. And we've been doing that for the last 10 years. We won awards and representation for transparency, but it is now absolutely embedded into the company. When we take a decision about what it is we're doing, we don't just look at the financial return, at the financial possibilities, but also at their impact. And that gives me an opportunity to talk about one of our partners, the Capital Coalitions, which I think is doing absolutely frontier work, pioneer work, in trying to give us a metric which will allow us to measure not only financial numbers, but also impact. And impact means not just environmental impacts, or not just the fact that we're destroying the planet because we want to transform it into money, but also social systems. And it's been a well-known tradition that you've created wealth by exploiting other people, and that's something we need to stop. It's not sustainable.
Right.